Calling to order the Finance Committee meeting for December the 5th, 2017. Our first item of business would be a special recognition from Deputy Mayor Gully at this time.
Y'all join me up front, please. Yes. Come on up. We got to make sure we're right for the photo ops. Okay. Thank you. Karen began working for the city in March 28, 2011 as a receptionist under the Revenue Department. And I hear your first boss was back here. Is that right? Right. One of her duties was sorting the mail for all the city departments, so there were constantly people coming and going to pick up their mail. Karen said, from my brief chats with everyone, I learned bits of information about the functioning of each department and use that information to help answer inquiries from the public. And that makes a difference.
Yes,
Just a little bit of information makes a difference. Approximately 1 year later, Karen was transferred to the water distribution as the Secretary 1, where she loved it and learned a lot while she was there. In August of 2013, Karen transferred to the Parks and Recreation and currently works at the Parks and Recreation Office Administrator 2. Karen says her favorite thing about working for the city is the support and camaraderie from her peers. It's like a big family. And I have found that over the years. During Karen's spare time, she enjoys spending time with her grandchildren, working on minor home improvement projects, studying the Bible, traveling, and just relaxing and enjoying the beauty of nature. Karen was nominated because she is a pleasure to work with, and she is always going out of her way to help others. In addition, she has an almost infectious good attitude. Congratulations.
That's
very good.
Thank
That is
you.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to say anything. Or
No.
No? I
Other than
understand.
thank you. That's very nice just to be appreciated.
There you go. Let me
Thank you.
and then all the there you go. So you know how this works.
Well,
have you won this before?
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to thank you too.
I knew the other night. I just didn't say anything. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I don't know how this works.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sure.
Returning to the Finance Committee agenda, item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of November 21st, 2017.
After reviewing of the minutes, are there any corrections, additions?
Move the approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments November 16, 2017 through November 29, 2017.
Do we have a report from the Purchasing Committee?
Yes, sir. The purchasing committee met earlier today and reviewed the report of claims, and I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval to accept the engineering services agreement from Holloway, Updike, and Bellin, Inc. for professional services for the plans and specifications for construction of the Civitan drainage basin improvements in the amount of $112,900 to take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. As part of the OWRB loan, we had a study that studied the Civitan drainage basin, and this is the actual design contract to get construction plans ready to do the projects that came out of that study. And Mr. Updike's going to give a short presentation on it.
Short presentation. Mm-hmm. Told me that several times. We completed a study of the drainage basin that goes from Civitan Park all the way to the Arkansas River, really, and it was funded by a loan forgiveness or a grant from the Water Resources Board. Now we're ready to move into the design. These are some of the areas. Where's the pointer? Right there? Yeah. Yeah, the upper end here is in Circle Acres area. These are some of the problem areas that we looked at, and we've come up what improvements to do at each of those areas. This is at the very top at Bonnie Lane, Debbie Lane and Bonnie Lane. This house right here gets water in it. We're going to improve the storm sewer there, some larger pipes. This is a plan of what's proposed in that area. The blue lines are proposed. It actually, this house right here is what has the problem. Moving on downstream, this is a Circle Acres area, and there's a 48-inch and 54-inch pipe buried through here, and all the joints are leaking. So we're going to do some internal repair on those, or external repair. We actually got up in there and looked at all the joints and figured out what the problem was. There's holes in the pipe at various places where soil's getting in there, and it's causing kind of sinkholes all down that alley. The next area is what we call the Irving Street area. This is a ditch that's hard to get to, hard to maintain for the city, so we're going to do some improvements to this like we did to the Haskell area. I may have a picture of that. Oh, this is the shot of where it is. This is Irving going south toward Haskell there between those houses. Here's the proposed deal. It's an articulating concrete block that goes in there. It's kind of environmentally sensitive. You still get grass growing around it. There's a picture of downstream that we finished as part of the East Side Sewer Project. This actually was up for an award by the Water Resources Board. This project, they called and said, for, what was the agency, Beautifying Oklahoma or something
we were
like
a
that?
finalist for the award.
Yeah, so that kind of caught us off guard, but they really liked it because it's a very green project. There's another shot of that. That was another area hard to get to between houses. You just can't get in there and maintain it, so this will prevent that from happening. And then the biggest part of this will be the Country Club Road area north of Chandler. That's a shot of it. If you're not familiar with it, when it rains real hard, it looks like that. And it's very dangerous. You can see here a car trying to pull in there right there. People try to make it across there, and very, very dangerous. So what we're proposing there is to raise the road basically and put a larger structure underneath there, right there. So the water will still look like that, but the road will be above it. And the structure is big enough. We size that structure just big enough so that we don't raise the water upstream or downstream. It's a very tricky balance there. So here's a profile of that. Here's the existing roadway, and it'll be raised. You can see right there. So this is another thing that was added. This is in the on Haskell area. Runs from Haskell to this other ditch that's already built, and it's collapsed, and it's causing a problem for some homeowners. We're going to look at that also. Here's a kind of an overall budget of the project. The total project is about $1.5 million, something like that, and it's in the Water Resources Board loan that you have. So, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
So Jay, there's a detention pond around Civitan Park,
Yes.
and that doesn't have anything, that water is going in a different direction, is that
No,
correct?
that does. Those were built a couple of years ago, and they have helped the situation considerably. They're not big enough to really, there's a big drainage area. One of them was built, the one up next to Gibson was built, we designed, and then they had the East Side Sewer contractor kind of built the other one while he was out there. So that's the upper end of it. So it does slow the water down some. Yeah.
Okay.
Any further questions for Mr. Updike?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of best bid from Rarick Pacific in the amount of $53.51 per cart for the purchase of 1,916 residential refuse carts for fiscal year 2017-2018, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the committee, this is to replenish our stock of poly carts. I think you've seen the other cart that was bid was slightly lower, but we feel like it makes more sense to stay with the current cart because the same parts for our men are in the field that are working on carts. We carry the same parts, and the consistency throughout the city with the same carts everywhere. So, and we've had no problems with Rarig at all. They've honored their warranty, and they've been great to deal with. So we recommend approval of going to the rare carts at $53.51 per cart.
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, have we recognized?
Yes, sir.
Mr. O'Reilly won't have any effect, like, we're talking about getting the automated trucks. Will these carts have any effect on that? I mean,
No, the carts will work with automated also. That will not be an issue.
won't be an issue. Okay. Turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 4 passed. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval of awarding a construction contract to the lowest and best bidder, Cook's Consulting, for the construction of wastewater system improvements, port lift station replacement, in the amount of $2,280,000, or take other necessary action.
One more time, Mr. Riley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee, this is one of the first contracts, construction contracts coming out of the LWRB loan. It's replacing 3 lift stations. We call the port lift stations along the river. We got very good bids. We've talked to Cook, and they're confident, and we feel confident they can do it for the price they bid, and we recommend approval.
Questions for Mr. Riley?
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 5 passed. Item number 6, please.
Consider the approval of receiving donated funds for the month of October 2017 in the amount of $1,013 for the city's animal shelter sponsorship program as per the attached list, or take other necessary action.
Chief?
Mr. Chairman, Council, we received $1,013 in our donation or from donations this month of October, and I would urge that we accept these funds for our spay and neuter and adoption program.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve this item. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Item number 6 passed, and with that, that's our final item for the Finance Committee.
And we'll now call to order the Public Works Committee meeting for December 5th. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of November 21st, 2017.
Any additions or changes?
Move the approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 2.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4035A to close the 20-foot alley running north and south located within Block 61 of the Muskogee Original Town Site, more particularly described in the ordinance, or take other necessary action.
We're now in the public hearing. Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the City of Muskogee is requesting approval to close an alley. The alley is located within Block 61 in the Muskogee Original Town Site. It's a north-south running alley between 2nd and 3rd Street, Fremont, and Elgin Avenue. The reason for the request is to allow a new green space to be located within the Depot District. Here's a rendering that kind of shows what's being proposed, and I think most of y'all have seen this under previous items that come before this committee. Basically, they're extending the trail to the east on over to Main Street, putting in a trailhead parking, putting in a food area for food trucks, a lot of green space. Here's another, actually, there's where the alley is located that we're requesting to close. You can see it kind of runs right through the middle. Here's another 3D drawing to show the proposed development. I think the main difference on this, it's my understanding the water tower is not going to be relocated. It's going to remain where it's at. Here's kind of another little drawing on what they expect that entrance at 3rd and Elgin to look like. This item has been recommended for approval by staff, Subdivision Review Committee, and Planning Commission. Be glad to answer any questions.
Seeing that no one signed up to speak to this issue, we're going to close the public hearing. Any discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other thoughts? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 3.
Consider approval of ordinance 4036A, amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 22, Business Regulations, Article 13, Wrecker and Towing Service by amending Section 22-584, Wrecker Permit Fee, modifying the permit fee and adding surcharge, providing for repealer and severability, or take other necessary action.
Seeing that this is an item that Mr. Kale wants to put on here, I'm almost recommending that we take no action on this until Monday night, so we can
Move
hear
for approval.
Second.
to take no action.
No action.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Let me clarify one thing.
Okay.
Are we going to move it to Monday without recommendation? Because if we take no action, it dies and it doesn't move
Okay.
forward. So you want to move forward without recommendation.
I want to move with no action. When we originally set out to address this record toll issue, we had said that we were going to get feedback from fellow tolls and create a kind of feedback session. And it's been my understanding through phone calls today that we have not done that process. Not saying that this is not a great process that we have in place, but I don't think we're ready to actually move forward. So I would like to keep my motion as stated and let the item die and bring it back at a later time.
And my seconds on that.
Okay. So we all understand. Motion and second. Any other thoughts, questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 4.
Receive an update on the wastewater treatment and collection projects to be funded by a series of loans from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley.
Mr. Chairman and committee, in April, we acquired a $27 million loan from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, and I've asked Mr. Updike to come and give us an update on the progress of where it stands at this time.
Thank you, Greg. This is the projects that are included in the loan. Also included, though, is the Civitan drainage. These are the wastewater projects. There's 6 of them. Port lift stations 1 through 4. We call the junction area, west side, north side, northeast, and wastewater treatment plant. These were all developed in a study that we did in cooperation with the staff of the needs of the wastewater collection and treatment plant. This is the port lift stations. If you're not familiar with these, they go from along the turnpike on the east side. There's 4 of them. They were built in the late 60s, and they're really in need of replacement. We bid 3 of them. The number 4 has some environmental issues we're dealing with, so we took that out of the bid initially, so we only bid 3 of them at this point. But the bids did come in way below the estimates, so we're very pleased about that. Here's kind of the status. The bid opening was the 21st, and Cook was a low bidder. Station number 4, we've completed the design, but we're going through an environmental review process for that. Hope to bid that early in 2019.
So that's not a misprint.
No, we're going to put it in with other projects that had to do an environmental on, and we want to do them all at one time. This is the junction area. It's a little bit hard to see this, but these are 2 lines that we found out were almost totally full of roots, and they were causing some overflows every time it rained down here in the junction area. That design is complete, and those plans are at DEQ being reviewed. We'll probably bid this one in early next year, in the spring of next year. That's a small project, maybe $300,000. It's small, it's not that small. Okay, the west side area is in 2 sections. This is McLean Furniture's right here, and Border is right here. And this is a line we found out was too small. It's an 18-inch all the way down there, and then it necks down to a 15-inch, and it causes some backups in the system, so we're going to enlarge that. Then up north from Muskogee, this is 33rd. There's a 10-inch line that runs all the way up through here, and then there's a force main that pumps from this. The eye clinic is right there. And this pump station serves this whole area, and it pumps so much that it overloads this line. It's an 18 here, but it's only a 10, so we're going to enlarge it to a 15 and enlarge the force main. Because when it rains, the wastewater overflows right there across in front of the eye surgery area. And those plans have also been submitted to EQ for review. We hope to bid that one. There's only, there was one easement on that. We already got that easement from the McLeans. They were very cooperative. They own that trailer park over there where that is. So that's about a year completion. This is the north side project. This is one we're having to do a full environmental on. This is the Buffalo Wings right in here. There's Walmart. There's a lift station there that has a force main that's terrible condition that comes right up 11th Street. And it needs to be replaced and enlarged, so we're going to come around this way to avoid all that concrete. And then enlarge, this is urban renewal area here, enlarge this gravity line right here also down to Talladega, I believe that line that's there. The other part of the north side is a replacement of this 27-inch line from Main Street down to Old Shawnee, right there. That line, we can't even get a TV camera through it. It's half full of silt and it's just gone. There's no concrete line and the bottom is just gone. So that would be replaced right where it is now in an existing easement. That's another 2019 or maybe bid late next year if we get through the environmental process. We're having to do beetle surveys and archaeological surveys and wetland surveys and all those things because this is federal money. So it's been quite an experience. This is a project I'm excited about. We call this the Northeast Wastewater Elimination Project. On Beacon Street, if you drive down Beacon Street right at Old Shawnee, there's a lift station there that's really seen its day. There's another one over here on Keaton, on Old Shawnee. You kind of turn off York and there's a big swale there. If you look, there's a lift station there that's in the floodplain. It was built in the 50s. And there's one more lift station for Kurtz Mall right there. So this project is to eliminate that lift station and that lift station and that one and bring them all by gravity to the north side of the Kurtz property and build a regional pump station that pumps all the way back to this east side sewer that we did last year. So and the plans on that are underway. We should have those plans ready to go to DEQ by mid-year. The last thing is the work at the wastewater treatment plant. Of course, we've got the basket screen project that you declared an emergency on under construction. The next thing will be replacement of some raw water, the raw water intake influent pump station. Those plans are 65% complete. We've started on the new control system. The control system out there is very outdated. And then phase 3 will be work on the headworks and a lot more things that need to be done out there. Here's the good news. I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but this was the original budget in the loan. Includes the Civitan drainage there, you can see. There were some other things for equipment and other things that are in there, but for the construction, it was $20 million. And we've re-estimated everything, plus we had bids on 3 of the 4 port stations. And so what we've done here is we only had about $2 million allotted for the wastewater plant, but that's up to $5.6 million if we want to do that much. And there's a lot that could be done out there. So that's really good because there's just that not much has been done out there since 1995. So it really needs some improvement. So this way it's looking, we're going to have extra money there to spend on that if you desire that. Any questions? I'll try to answer.
Any questions for Jay? Jay, thank you.
Thank you.
No action taken needed, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. All right, item number 5 then.
Receive report on findings and recommendations from the Healthy Food Retail Task Force, a subcommittee of the Muskogee Wellness Initiative, and take any necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, you all may remember at some point in the past there was a request from the Muskogee Wellness Initiative to establish a Healthy Food Retail Task Force. That was approved by the council, and the task force began its work. That work, as I understand it, has been completed, and Doug Walton from the Muskogee Wellness Initiative is here to make his presentation on the findings as well as recommendations to the city. A copy of that report has been passed out and is in the desk in front of you, and then Mr. Walton also has a presentation that he'd like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker, Chair and committee members. I appreciate your time today. And oh, did I bump something? Can you rebump for me, please?
That was a nice short presentation, Doug. Appreciate that, man.
You only wish. I'm
I've got
sorry.
Christmas shopping to do.
I will try and keep it moving for you. Yes, really just want to start by thanking the members of the Healthy Retail Task Force, several of whom are here today, as are members of the Muskogee Wellness Initiative. This was a pretty intensive effort to really dig in to learn more about sort of the retail food environment within Muskogee and what it is that keeps people from having regular access, reliable access to healthy foods within the community. So the group formed just about a year ago upon passage of the resolution by City Council back in November of 2016. They started up in January of 17. You can see some of the language from the resolution there: to study and make recommendations to effect positive change related to both the availability and quality of food to the citizens of Muskogee. And then task force also received staff support from the TSED Healthy Living Program at the Muskogee County Health Department, which is really my role. I've served primarily as staff support for the committee, working with Muskogee Wellness on this effort, as have Barb Elmore and Angel Tillman from the Health Department. So the group met monthly throughout 2017, also formed 2 committees in June, mid-year, which met monthly as well themselves as subcommittees, gathered existing data on health outcomes and access to healthy food. So basically looked at what was already available, what research had been done, what data was out there to help us figure some of this out. Created and conducted a survey aimed at Muskogee area residents. So we've got that's really what the bulk of this presentation is going to cover, is the findings from the survey and recommendations that draw out of that. But also the group and the committees gathered some what we felt like and what we heard was some much needed information about food assistance resources within the community, within Muskogee, trying to get an accurate current list of all of the programs that are available providing food assistance, meals, delivered meals, pantries, and get all that in one place where anyone can find it. It is something that we had hoped to have ready to present as part of this report and presentation, and it's just been one of those things that every stone you turn over, you find a couple others underneath it. But we really are, I feel like, encouraged by what all is out there. Just a quick synopsis for you on the food assistance. We found at least 7 different organizations providing free meals on site, 5+ that are delivering meals, and about 10 or more food pantry programs in the community that are active. I know some of you are involved with some of those. So what we are gathering is all of the vital information: the address, the phone, the days and hours, the requirements. What does a person need to gain access to that assistance? What are the limitations on that? And then we're working with the Muskogee Bridges Out of Poverty, who maintains the Okie 411 app, so that we can get all of that information available on that app. And then you'll see some of the other recommendations on how we can get this information out. We've gathered similar information regarding transportation services within the city of Muskogee, getting all of the licensed cab services listed in one location, names, contact information, any web or other ways to reach or limitations on hours of service, other on-demand services, Lyft and Uber, how to reach them in Muskogee, and then as well as information about Muskogee Transit. So a lot there, but we're today really going to cover the information specifically related to the surveying and the data that's out there. Here's just showing you some of the health outcomes within the county of Muskogee, first column there, and then comparing each of those to the same measures at the state and national level. So heart disease, that's just a incidence per 100,000 population, age-adjusted diabetes, all of these other three are basically self-reported through a national survey system, have been told that they have been diagnosed with diabetes or hypertension, or the adult obesity is just a function of height and weight that's provided. So you can see, we've got, this is why, these are the, some of the reasons why the task force came together and why this was important to Muskogee Wellness Initiative to look at how we can improve access to healthy food. This is a visual, and it's a little bit hard to see, but basically you're looking at census tracts. We've got 5 in green and 2 in kind of the orange. This is from the USDA's Food Access Locator database, so it's just showing you census tracts that are considered low access. Majority of the population living more than a mile from a grocer in the green, and then more than a half mile or more in the orange, just to give you a sense of kind of the access. Food insecurity, it's a measure of whether or not people have to go without food at some point in the time before they're surveyed. It's a national survey. We've got data down to the county level, so you can see roughly 18.6% of the county population is considered food insecure, compared with the state 16.2% and the national rate of 13.4%. And so this is, from here on out, is the data that the task force gathered. So this survey was conducted October, November of this year. Had nearly 700 surveys that were completed, both online and by hand, from 11 different locations, those that were completed handwritten. You can see all of the different locations there. It kind of, if you start on the pie chart on the top right, the 10% dark blue, Bridges Out of Poverty, and just kind of wraps around from there. Central Meat Market, 2%. 5% of the Cherokee Elementary, 5% of the surveys were completed through Cherokee. Daltile, quite a few. A member of the Muskogee Wellness Initiative, we were fortunate to have them. Feel like a pretty good representation of the community here as far as the different organizations and programs that are reflected, and demographics. A good chunk with decent paying, regular pay jobs, and others. So here we're just going to go through some of the responses to the different questions in the survey. So this question asked, members of my household have trouble getting and eating enough healthy food. Healthy foods were defined as fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean meats, and low-fat dairy in the survey itself. So, here, many of the questions were graded this way, so they could choose 0, never, to 10, always, or anything in between. So, it's helpful to kind of see, kind of what the distribution is. On the right of every of these graphs, you can see how many responses there are. I didn't mention, but of the 699, 512 of those were city residents. So some of the folks that completed the survey, Daltile or anywhere else, may not live within the city, but they utilize either the programs or, somehow were reached through these organizations. So roughly 515 of the surveys by city residents. So most of the data we're looking at are those that were completed by 01 or 03 zip codes. So, here, what I like to do is look at, when we think of the scale as 0 to 12, never to always, kind of start in the middle around 5 as sort of sometimes. And if you look at a 5 or higher, a 5 or 10, we've got 35% of folks that indicated that they have trouble getting and eating enough healthy food. The next question, members of my household have cut the size of meals or skipped meals because there wasn't enough money for food in the past year. So again, looking at the residents of Muskogee that completed that, again, mostly, thankfully, never, but, still some that are on that other end of the scale. And when you look at those that kind of said 5, sometimes up to always, you got 29% of the respondents indicated that they have cut size of meals or skipped meals because there wasn't enough money for food in the past year. Here, one that we were, I think, initially a little bit surprised by, still, pleased that lack of reliable transportation doesn't prevent most folks from getting healthy foods. Fairly small numbers out there on that far end of the graph, about 16% saying 5 or higher. So that's encouraging. This question here, I've used the following ways to get groceries in Muskogee during the past year. wanted you to kind of hone in on one figure here. We're going to look at a little deeper, but we'll come back to the others. But under Muskogee Transit, you can see there that we had 8%, 41 folks that were surveyed had used Muskogee Transit at some time in the past year to buy groceries. With the survey tool that we used, we could actually look, kind of sort by how a person answered. So we could look at the 41 who said they had used public transit and ask the same, see how they answered this question that everyone had already, that they had already answered. But those that had used transit here, you can see the graph looks quite a bit different from it, the way it did previously with the all the population. We've got 58% now saying that a lack of transportation has prevented them or their household members from getting healthy food. When we asked everyone, transportation was really low. So those using transit are really needing it. Here, members of my household have trouble getting any of healthy food. So here, when we asked those looking at that had said transit, you can compare and see the difference there between those, the total, and those that had used public transit before. So again, looking at kind of that grouping that have chosen 5 to 10, we had 51% saying that they had trouble versus the 35% of the total. Here, members of my household have cut the size of meals or skipped meals because there wasn't enough money for food in the past year. This one, looking at the same 41 group, or 41, we have 44% of those choosing a 5 or higher. When we compare that to the whole population, 29%. So just kind of a deep dive into the transit users. Back to the original question, we can look at some of the other responses. 29% got a ride from friend or family to get groceries. 20% walked. Was kind of encouraged by that figure within the city of Muskogee, that 20% of folks had walked to purchase groceries in the last year, and 5% had bicycled. This one asked, I can safely and conveniently walk from my home to a store where I can get the healthy food items I need. Pretty wide distribution. On the left side, this is a strong disagreement with that statement. The right side is a strong agreement with the statement. So you have, with the strongly disagree and agree spectrum, you don't really have, you kind of have middle as sort of neutral. So we kind of look at just sort of more of one end. So from a 0 to a 3, we had 52% there saying that they had strongly disagreed with that statement. And then we asked on the survey, what would help you eat more healthy foods? Here, maybe starting by looking at if they were more affordable, second choice from the left, 61% came up, cost as a barrier came up several times as something that was affecting people's ability to choose healthy. And I guess especially surprising, but was nonetheless a factor affecting the selection of healthy foods. And this one asking, which resources have you used in the past year? So you can see there, 39% of all respondents had used SNAP, 13% WIC, 10% Veggie Bucks, so on and so forth. 22% had used a food pantry, 16% a community meal. And what would help you eat more healthy foods? I guess just a chance here to look back at some of the others besides the cost. A wide variety, kind of spread evenly. Ranking fairly high, better quality, variety and quality where I shop, 34%. More time for shopping or fixing, 19% there. New and improved store where I live, near where I live, 13%. Cooking classes and recipes, 13%. Affordable healthy items were eating out, 21%. So with those in mind, and within your packet sent out prior to the meeting should have been an executive summary from the report, which had sort of the initial overview, and then these same recommendations that the task force is suggesting, and it really tied in looking at feasibility, looking at cost, low cost or no cost, and as well as just relevant to the findings. You may have noticed, one of the members of the task force, Darla Bennett, now with Muskogee Transit, is working towards looking at adjustment of transit routes to make sure that they are getting folks to grocery stores as needed, and even looking at possible weekend route for groceries, as well as putting together some user-friendly route schedule and map information about Muskogee Transit, where and when you can catch a bus, making that readily available online and throughout the community in hard copy. Those things are happening. Strengthen community gardening by possibly utilizing vacant city lots for new garden areas, looking at the garden areas that we have and determining if we have empty plots or not. We had some folks say having a garden spot would help them eat healthier. I think there were nearly 50 folks that said that. And so seeing if the ones we have are being utilized, if not, get the word out about them. If they are being fully utilized, look at possibly creating additional garden space. Expanding the availability of veggie bucks or other similar coupons. This is really hitting towards that cost issue, some way to offset the cost of healthy foods. This is something that would take funding, and that would require, looking for some sources and putting together some proposals, maybe donors or grants or whatever. Number 4, utilize Channel 14 for providing basically, nutrition-related information, cooking tips, kind of honing on that. Not enough time for shopping or preparing, giving people more ideas on how to make good use of the time they do have. Videos, there's a lot of free videos that are out there on healthy cooking that could be on, as well as the information about the food assistance resources that we've found, the transportation services, this report. Get that up on the Channel 14 and the Okie One app information. Promote, we learned about through this process, the Salvation Army providing fruits and vegetables through their food pantry, promoting that and helping others do the same. The 6th item on the next page, this one here, just looking to make sure that we don't have any zoning or other ordinances that might prevent someone from putting in a healthy corner store food retailer. We've got several empty convenience stores in town, and just making sure that anything that could be done on the city's side to make it easier for people to get into those stores and get some healthy foods in them might be worth looking at. 7, updating and maintaining Okie 411, as I mentioned. Then, since we did see a lot about people walking and also using transit to get to the grocer, looking to see how we've got pedestrian and bicycle access in the right-of-ways near the grocers that we have. And then number 9, really this one ranked almost the highest among the task force members, but felt like it was probably best at the end. Everyone there would like to continue their efforts coordinating implementations of these recommendations if the council or the committee approves of the recommendations, and to bring other partners to the table, and to continue looking at barriers to access and identifying programs and putting a strategic plan together to address these things. I really would like to thank you for your attention, for the support you've shown to the task force and to the wellness initiative. Sorry for going long, and I would take any questions, and I know members of the task force or others here would, if you have questions or comments.
Doug, refresh my memory. Does the Veggie Bucks, is that an EODD program? I know that they have some sort of food subsistence.
The EODD does have a program they've participated in since 2009. That's the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, where low-income seniors can sign up basically for essentially it's a debit card for fruits and vegetables at the farmers market. Usually comes with $50 they can use throughout the season at the Muskogee Farmers Market. EODD also serves Okmulgee, Stillwell, Tahlequah, and a couple other, I think at least one other farmers market in their region. It's a federal grant that the state receives, DHS Aging receives, and the size of the grant has been the same for the past many years, and the number of markets and seniors has increased. So each participating market has fewer and fewer resources to provide seniors. I think there were just over 100 that received it this past year. It's a great opportunity for supplemental funding, I think, that EODD would probably welcome to help serve those seniors. The Veggie Bucks were made possible through a grant from the Cherokee Nation to the Muskogee County Health Department that went out through the community that were good for $3 fruits and vegetables at the Muskogee Market.
Okay, so 2 separate programs.
2 separate programs, both that could probably benefit from that. The Veggie Buck program, that grant is now done, and there is currently no funding for that program.
Doug, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
For the benefit of those people who are listening and for mine as well, can you give a brief definition of food insecurity?
Sure. It's the statistics are gathered from a national survey that the USDA conducts, and they ask a lot of different questions getting at conditions that lead to food insecurity. And so asking about, have you skipped a meal or eaten less food because of a lack of money, or have you felt pain due to hunger? And there's a whole host of questions, and if they hit so many of those, then they consider that respondent in a household with food insecurity.
Okay. And you may not be able to answer this tonight, but if there was a dollar amount for Muskogee that could be offered in terms of making a meaningful impact, do we know what that number would be?
Any amount would help for sure. For example, like with the Senior Farmers Market Program, I think they had somewhere in the order of $5,000 to $10,000 that was available for the seniors in this community. The Veggie Buck program, I think, was probably a similar amount. There's never enough to go around. For people that are asking for those services or to participate, I would say, tens of thousands would be great. But to put a figure on it, it's the kind of thing where, I think given the situation, any that could be found would be of use.
I'd like at some point, maybe towards the first part of the new year, if you had the opportunity to just come up with what that number would actually be.
Sure.
Okay.
Would love to. Thank you.
Do you find that more of the people that can't get to healthy food or food in general live more south of Main Street, or do they live north of Main Street? Where's that area at in Muskogee?
I wish I could tell you for certain. Our survey only included zip code information. We were hesitant about putting address on there and getting other similar kind of data from people. Probably should have tried to, or at least cross streets. But the map that I showed, you really just kind of think about where we've got we've got folks living and where we don't have stores, and then the people that are impacted with some form of transportation issue. So yes, Central is probably the biggest area, downtown up to, Martin Luther King Plus, and south to South Side, and west to 24th, and that area there's just very low access. We do have the new Mercado grocer on North Main, which is going to help, but there's a pretty large swath in those those tracts, 5 different census tracts, with the majority of the population more than a mile.
Yeah. I wish we could figure out a way to get some people to build as another grocery store in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been touting it for a while. I think there's a group of us up here that's been wanting one, and I don't know what it's going to take to get someone in there, but we definitely need to work a little harder as city council personnel to get it there. I really do. I think we need to step up and put the money where our mouth is, and we've been recruiting everywhere else all over this town. Why can't we recruit someone down there? That's what I want to say.
Okay. Any other questions for Doug?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I'll be recognized.
You are recognized. Anywhere you go.
All right, Mr. Gully. I'm always talking also about having something downtown for the senior citizens, in those buildings, grocery store, anything. Also, Doug, if somebody's hungry here in Muskogee, do you have a list of all the places that you can go to get food?
We're working on it. We do have a list. It's just not quite ready to distribute because we know it's not complete, and we want to make sure it's as accurate and complete as possible. But we also know that as soon as we do it, it's going to change, and it's going to have to be something that's regularly updated and maintained, and that's going to take an ongoing effort. But we are in the process, and I'll say within a few weeks we will have something that's solid enough to distribute, that shows all the all the meals on site, all the delivered meal programs, and all the food pantries in Muskogee.
'Cause I know it'd be a good thing to put on Channel 14, you know, because like I say, I deal with the Gospel Rescue Mission and the Salvation Army a lot, you know, working with them. I was just curious, you know.
Sure. If I may just address Committee Member Hall's question about because this may tie back into what you're asking too about the store. You know, I know we've put some incentive packages together for downtown residential, and I don't know what might be possible, but to me it merits looking into, is there any way we could put a package together to attract a grocer in a similar sort of way?
Any other questions for Doug?
I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Gully.
Thank you. And I'm sure Mr. Walton will be glad to answer any questions at a later date.
Sure.
So, no action necessary?
On this one, Mr. Chairman, I believe that the Wellness Initiative is looking for a motion to accept the report and approve the recommendations.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 6.
Consider approval of the appointment of Dan Hall to the Airport Board to serve a 4-year term beginning January 1, 2018, and ending December 30th, 2022, succeeding Ben Robinson, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Hall.
Well, I'd like to start out saying that I don't know if I can really fill the shoes of Ben Robinson, but I will definitely like to try. I started out not putting myself on this board. I called almost every guy that flies an airplane that I know, and everybody that was part of either ROTC or Air Force, someone like that. And finally, I started having some of these pilots call me and say, "Why don't you do it?" And I'm like, "Well, I wanted you to do it." And they're like, "No, we need you to do it." So I've been to several little airports around Riverside. I've been over to Jinx and everything. And I'm like, and they kind of all started out kind of where we're at. And then they made a few decisions, and then they started growing. And we're still kind of stuck in those areas. I'd like to be on this airport board, see if we can get some of those things moving that way. And I'm sure the previous board members on here have thought of the same things. I don't know. I haven't been on this airport board, and I would like to sit on there, and if they told me they thought of them, we'll figure out something else. But
Very good.
I'd like to try it. So
For approval.
thank you.
Second. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Gully, may we recognize?
Yes, sir.
I think Councilman Hall is going to be a great asset to the airport board, and I know he wouldn't have been on it for quite some time, and you might even learn how to fly a plane.
They don't make them that big.
If they did, I think I'm going to fly over Grandview 7.
Hey. All right.
I'll turn
I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries. Seeing that no citizens wish to signed up to address this committee, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.